Welcome back to the ball, my fellow horror-loving bastards. I'm the Headbanger, here with a complete recap of the recent Days of the Dead convention in the very windy city of Chicago, Illinois that took place this past weekend. I don't have any actual video footage from the convention like I would normally do. We actually only were there one evening this time around. So but I'm going to recap it for you, all the details and our thoughts on it. But I want to first say thank you to Adolfo, who runs it. Big horns high for you. Thanks again for once again allowing me to cover it. Very much appreciated. So here we go. Full recap from Days of the Dead. Yeah, so the location, this was actually Mrs. Headbanger and I, our first adventure into the city of Chicago. I want to first thank the state of Illinois for allowing us to bend over and just rape our wallets with your various tolls, which was collected from us. I hope that that money goes to improving all the roads and infrastructure. Thank you for that. But of course, a lot of traffic in a big city like Chicago. So once we finally got there, typical with conventions, the hotels typically are right off the thruway, which is of course very convenient. The hotel itself was at the Marriott. I always enjoy staying at the Marriott. This one, it appeared to be either a newer one or they had done maybe some remodeling to some of the rooms and the elevators. So it was overall a nice hotel. A little congested in the main lobby area as opposed to some other hotels that we've been at, which have been a little bit bigger. But overall, very nice hotel. It had a talking elevator, which made us smile every time we were in it. But yeah, good hotel. Layout wise, pretty similar to other Days of the Dead that we've been to, and just conventions in general. It's nice that they had a separate room for a majority of the celebrities for their autographs, and for the most part a separate room for the vendors, which is, I think, is always handy to keep them separate, so lines weren't interfering with each other, and so that worked out well. So layout was fine and pretty much typical of past Days of the Dead conventions. Alright, the guest list. I know some of you out there that do go to conventions, some of you I know don't really care about the guest list, or maybe you go strictly for vendors or whatnot. We're definitely big on guest lists. I mean, it doesn't make or break us going to a convention, but this definitely was the reason we went, and it actually would have been a monumental guest list for Mrs. Headbanger and I had we not already met many of the celebs that were at this one. They had a full Return of the Living Dead, pretty much a full. A couple people were missing, maybe actually just one, I believe. Full Return of the Living Dead reunion, which has happened in the past. There was something different about this one though. They had a Blair Witch Project reunion, which I believe one of the guys who played, the guy who played Josh, I believe, canceled. But we had already met the three of them, luckily, in the past at a Monster Mania convention. Had we not, it would have been a very big deal to meet them. You had Danny Trejo, who's someone I personally am not really a big fan of, but he's definitely a big guest to a lot. He definitely has a cult following out there, so he was there once again. A nice eclectic group of guests, which I think is typical of Days of the Dead. But yeah, the main reason we went, Miss Headbanger and I, when it became, we really had no plans on going to Chicago. It's a solid 9.5 hour drive for us. But they announced, I want to say in the spring, maybe early summer, that they were adding James Karen and Clu Gulager, who, if you're familiar with Return of the Living Dead, are two of the big stars from that great film, and we had not yet met them. And Miss Headbanger has a poster that she's assembled autographs for, and those are really the only two people left from the cast that she still needed. Clu does not do a lot of conventions. James Karen, I mean, since I've been keeping track of conventions for years, I had only seen him do one, which was in, I believe, Kentucky at one point for like one day. So I mean, these were two pretty sweet, rare guests. And it was definitely going to be at James Karen's age, his very last convention, possibly the same for Clu. So, Return of the Living Dead is in my top 10 all time, and is actually Mrs. Headbanger's #1 film of all time, any genre. So this was a major big deal. We had to make it in and make plans to go. So that's why we came. But had we not met many of the other Return of the Living Dead cast members in the past already, this would have been just a monumental con across the board if you're a fan of that film. So a great guest list, and it was James Karen and Clu Gulager that brought us to that. and they delivered. Two great guys. James Cameron's wife was just delightful. Both of them were. Mrs. Hemmer got to talk to them for quite a while, and she was totally fangirling, which is fun to see. A woman fangirling to a man in his, I think it's gotta say late 80s, early 90s. But yeah, they were both great, and she got her poster complete now from Return of the Living Dead. So yeah, really good guest list, and there were plenty of other people that not mentioned. Jason Mewes was there. Heather Langenkamp, I believe, was there. Some typical ones like Sid Haig and whatnot. So yeah, really nice guest list. Vendors. I think Days of the Dead has I would say a very strong vendor room. I think when you go to a lot of conventions like I do, you go to particular ones over and over, you do definitely tend to see some of the same vendors multiple times, which is fine by me. Every now and then you will, of course, see some new ones. And I mean, for pretty much anything you want as a collector of horror, this Days of the Dead vendor room definitely delivers. I mean, people with clothing. Mrs. Hemmer is big on kind of like that crafty type stuff. Those those creative people kind of make their own unique things, like hair pieces, or she's also kind of gotten into oddities and like taxidermy stuff. So there's a few tables that offer that type of stuff. I'm big on kind of like looking for DVDs, posters. I think it's a very strong convention for original horror posters. Actually bought a couple. Probably should have grabbed them to show you guys, but maybe on another show. So yeah, very strong poster offerings for you if you're a big poster collector. Yeah, I mean, across the board, a very strong vendor room. You also have kind of like stalwarts from convention. You can see Jad Pictures is there all the time for Days of the Dead. I've talked about them before. It's great to see them. Toe Tag Pictures. You guys know I'm a big fan of Fred and Shelby Vogel. Toe Tag Pictures has their great booth set up there. We were able to hang out with Fred and Shelby for quite a while, actually. So that kind of goes along with the guests as well. It's just great to go see and support them. But yeah, I'd say very strong vendor room. Would have liked to have had some more cash, of course. VHS PS is there typically all the time for Days of the Dead. So yeah, I would give the vendor room a solid A. It pretty much has anything you would want. Not anything you'd want, but for a convention. There was a guy actually had a table. He had a stack of hard boxes that he was selling. So that was really cool. Miss Edmayer convinced me not to buy my 800th hard box of Suspiria, so I was able to abstain for that. But yeah, great vendor room. Final thoughts on Days of the Dead Chicago 2013. I gotta say, conventions have gotten really big over the last few years. I mean, I've been going for many years and have definitely seen it continue to rise. And it's not just because of The Walking Dead. I mean, I noticed this before The Walking Dead kind of got big with those guests. In case in point, this convention had no Walking Dead guests. But there was a time when you could go on a Friday and it would be, I don't want to say completely dead, but it would be very, very laid back, to an extent, very quiet. And we always love going on Friday, probably for that main reason. It's not like that anymore. We just went Friday this time, and it was very busy right from the start, and that's good to see. I mean, it's a catch-22. I kind of miss those old days when conventions weren't as big as they were now. But at the same time, you want to see these promoters and these conventions thrive. But I gotta say, I'm not just saying this because I'm talking about Days of the Dead now, but I really think it's become my favorite. It's the closest, I think, to what conventions used to be. I think maybe they'll never be that way again. How it was many years ago, as they've gotten so much bigger now. But Days of the Dead, I think, still has that kind of, lack of a better phrase, family atmosphere, meaning there's camaraderie there. I don't really hear about a lot of drama. Maybe there is. From a family perspective, it's a con that you can bring your family to. I mean, we've brought Little Headbanger with us before, and you see other kids there. It's just a good environment, a good atmosphere, a lot of fun. I mean, Adolfo does a great job running it. Yeah, I mean, seeing the familiar faces like the Toe Tag and Jad Pictures and some of these other places, VHS PS, it just still has that cool vibe, even though it's getting bigger. I'm really happy to see that it's getting bigger. So I highly recommend it if you're already a veteran con goer that is yet to go to Days of the Dead, because it is still fairly young. It's only been around for a couple years, I believe. But highly recommended. If you've never been to a convention, you're kind of looking for that first one to go to, definitely check this one out. They go to Indianapolis, Chicago, Atlanta, and LA every year. So hopefully you're within, unless you're in the far East Coast. But even so, it's worth the drive. Very well run convention. Again, it's probably become my favorite. Horror Hound's gotten really big. I mean, I still support Horror Hound, but I actually haven't been to Horror Hound in, I can't even remember the last one I went to. Monster Mania, I think at one point had become my favorite, but as of late, they've kind of done what I see an unfortunate trend with horror conventions. They've kind of become this like more of a guest-wise, more of like a pop culture convention, much like Chiller Theater has become. A lot of non-horror guests, sci-fi guests, old TV shows. I don't know. I'm just not into it. If you want to do that, fine, but then I think you should change your name from Monster Mania to something else, because you're not a horror convention anymore. And I hope Days of the Dead doesn't go that route. If you're going to be a horror convention, I say keep it horror. So yeah, say Days of the Dead is my favorite at this point. Look forward to go back next summer in July. So definitely check out Days of the Dead. Very cool convention, well run, has that atmosphere still, that fun vibe. Horror conventions are great to see friends that you don't get to see. Maybe I only get to see at conventions. I missed out on seeing Justin Ryan 1988 this time, unfortunately. I actually met a very cool chick that I had become friends with recently on Instagram, Lena. Very cool to meet you if you're watching. Austin, always cool to see you. Thank you so much for offering that 40-ounce beer. I'm just sorry I just couldn't do it. I mean, I struggled with that even back in my younger days, let alone now that I've become kind of this like craft beer snob. But Mrs. Headbanger had her first 40, and it will be her last. But thank you very much, Austin, for offering that, and maybe next time we'll have some craft beer. So yeah, Days of the Dead, 2 horns high for that. Highly recommended. Still a great atmosphere. Wish I could have stayed longer, but we had other stuff to do. But that's really it. Hope you enjoyed this recap. I hope you check Days of the Dead out sometime if you've never been before. If you have, leave a comment and let me know your thoughts on it. See you next time, guys. I'm the Headbanger. I'm out. Stay scared.